ladies, and welcome back to my Chick Dig Sports. As you all may know, we are heading into the #1 Sunday in any football fan's life, and that is Super Bowl Sunday. This year, we have the Denver Broncos going against the Seattle Seahawks. This should actually be a really good Super Bowl. I think both teams are pretty evenly matched, and I'm curious to see both of these quarterbacks go. Now, in lieu of Super Bowl Sunday coming up, I figured that I would do a little something for each team, talk about some of the big crazy things that are going on right now. As we all know, some of the things said by the Seattle Seahawks towards some of the other teams haven't been the nicest of things. I personally find this pretty funny because you got grown men talking like 5-year-olds, but women, any of you who've dated men know that 5-year-olds is pretty much what you get sometimes. So for us, this is not that big of a deal. Anywho, I decided that I was going to start thumbing through more and more magazines and try to get to more blogs, and I promised news, so I'm deciding that I really want to get some new stuff done. Working really hard, we actually changed locations, so now we're going to be in a much more consistent mode doing our blogs. So I'm thumbing through Sports Illustrated the other day, and lo and behold, I find a jewel of an idea of something that I can talk about. Now, normally I like to keep these under 10 minutes, so I definitely found a handful of things that need to be discussed before Super Bowl Sunday, but I will have to keep this one at a minimum. So, being the good sports blogger that I am, I was thumbing through Sports Illustrated when I come across the most obnoxious thing that pretty much anyone can say to a Hall of Fame quarterback. Now, I understand that in our day and age, pretty much if you don't win a championship, most people try to say that your career wasn't that great. Well, that just means your team's career wasn't that great. But you can't sit there and say that somebody who didn't win a Super Bowl isn't an awesome player just because they happen to be on teams where it just didn't happen. Winning a Super Bowl is one of the hardest things to do in sports. Getting to that pinnacle, getting to the very top, it isn't easy to do. And a lot of times it's chemistry and everything has to hit at the right time. I mean, it's just all of it has to work. So it doesn't necessarily work for a lot of players. And there are some amazing players who weren't in Hall of Fame, who have broken every record, changed their game, who haven't been and won a Super Bowl. So I will openly admit that this for me is personal. It comes from a former Denver Bronco, and for those of y'all who know me, know that I hate the Denver Broncos so much. Flames on the sides of my face, like, it just makes me want to my head to explode. And if any of y'all have ever seen the movie Clue, you know exactly where that reference is from. Anyway, I am not a Denver Broncos fan. I think that John Elway is just a horrible, evil, just booze hound jack-off, and I am not a fan. So I imagine my joy and surprise when I see this little quote in Sports Illustrated. Now, Shannon Sharpe, I did Exhibit A. We got to do a picture so that everybody knows who he is, ladies. This is Shannon Sharpe, former tight end of the Denver Broncos. He actually works on CBS as a correspondent. He does their NFL Sunday mornings, along with this man, Dan Marino. Dan Marino is one of the best quarterbacks known to man. He has broken tons and tons of records, and he has pretty much epitomized and changed how quarterbacks played the game back in the day. Dan Marino's biggest and saddest thing is that he never won a Super Bowl. The Miami Dolphins are known for one thing and one thing only. They're known for the 1972 perfect season. They've been riding that horse for a long time because, believe me, there has been no perfection going on since then. Dan Marino actually got to the Super Bowl his rookie season and lost and never made it back again. So it is really, really painful. And for those players that have never won, trust me, especially if you've been on my team, it's painful. So Shannon Sharpe likes to run his mouth, and Shannon Sharpe's team actually got caught cheating. The reason this man has a Super Bowl is because his team got caught cheating. The only reason that the beloved John Elway has 2 Super Bowls in 1997 and 1998 is because they got caught cheating. They paid $900,000 in restitution to the National Football League. Now, I know I could go on for days about this, and I would love to do so, especially in lieu of Denver going to the Super Bowl yet again. I'm just curious if they're actually playing fair this time, but I digress. So I will leave the story to you. Feel free to look it up. I promise you this is true. This is not something that I would say lightly, because that is someone's reputation, and it is a lot to say without proof. I definitely promise you, if you Google it, you look it up, you find some information, it's there. The NFL didn't want a scandal, so they kept it quiet because they didn't want to talk about it. They did, however, have to pay for it. So Shannon Sharpe has decided with his contract with CBS that you're not allowed to ask about his contractual obligations and contractual issues that went on during his 2 Super Bowl wins. Nice, Shannon. That says a lot to me about you and your character. So obviously you knew there were things going on there that shouldn't be. So I'm going to let it go. But let me tell you, it does totally make me happy that he was the one that opened his big, giant, fat, horse teeth mouth. Now, so Shannon Sharpe sits with Dan Marino. They both sit on the stage together. They have a good time. They talk. They laugh. They all pick who they think's going to win. Yada, yada, yada. Well, so now I can actually talk about the comment. I had to start off the comment. I had to tell you a little story. I know I didn't tell you the whole story. Girls, it's like when your boyfriend comes home after he finds out a couple friend of yours have broken up, and he tells you that they broke up, and that's all he has. You know how he doesn't give you any more of the story because he didn't ask any more of the story. He just comes home, drops the bomb, and walks off. That's basically what I'm doing with that. I'm basically dropping the Denver cheated bomb on you and walking away. So here's the comment. Shannon Sharpe decides to say, and I quote, in Sports Illustrated, let's go ahead and talk about it. Shannon Sharpe says, and I quote, a quarterback needs a ring to cement his legacy. Now, I get it. I understand it. Of course, coming out of your mouth, Shannon, I'd kind of like to know what you're trying to tell me right now. So are you telling me that it's okay to cheat just so you get that Super Bowl? Is that what you tell your kids and your family, that that's all right? You're really going to talk about a Super Bowl ring when you already say we're not allowed to talk about your contractual issues in CBS booth? Come on. Don't be getting this on me because you're lucky that I just found this. You're lucky that I'm being this nice about it because Dan Marino comes back and go Dan. This is what Dan says. Dan says, if I had played on some of the teams that Shannon Sharpe had played on, I would have won Super Bowls too. Thank you, Dan. And what I love about that comment from Dan Marino is I kind of picture the conversation going like this. Shannon Sharpe has to say, well, you know, if you want to have a legacy, you got to win a Super Bowl. Dan Marino says, well, if I would have had the teams you had, I would have won some Super Bowls too. Should we talk about 1997 and 1998, or are you going to shut your big fat mouth now? Pretty much shutting his big fat mouth down. No, that last part is just for me, but that's how I imagine that quote to come. Because seriously, Shannon, seriously, the week that Denver's going to the Super Bowl, you have to talk smack about a quarterback who is an amazing quarterback and who actually changed and broke many records, knowing that the only reason you have 2 Super Bowls is because you all cheated openly to get them. Wow, you got some balls, man. That takes a lot of guts to actually come out and say that. And I have to say, kudos to Sports Illustrated, because I know that Dan Marino said that nice little snide remark because anyone who knows anything about the NFL knows that this happened. So basically, Shannon Sharpe got called out for saying a total douchebag comment. So Dan Marino, kudos to you. Let me tell you, you're still one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I don't care if you have a ring or not. Obviously, it would be nice if you had one, because my dad could stop whining about the fact that his team hasn't won a Super Bowl since 1972, the perfect season. Yes, I've heard it. So, y'all, forgive my rant. I had to go into Denver. Obviously, let's talk really quickly about now and today. Thank you, Sports Illustrated, for giving that juicy tidbit I've waited so long for. But I do want to say, Denver, I am not a Denver fan, as we all know. I have a loathing and a hate, which I don't have that for much of other things, but I do really, really like Peyton Manning. Anybody who comes back from 4 neck surgeries and comes back to play at the caliber he's playing at, this is absolutely an awesome guy. I've heard nothing but great things about him, and I do really, really wish him the best. But unfortunately, Peyton, you play for a team that disgusts me to the core. So I gotta say that I'm sticking with Russell Martin and the Seattle Seahawks this year for the Super Bowl. They're not the only ones, guys, with the scandal. I had to hit on some Denver juice first, but trust me, I got enough to talk about with Seattle too. We're gonna be covering that. So girls, always, I'm ready. This is gonna be so much fun. Let's have a blast. As I always say, ladies, once we learn sports, we'll know everything. Take care.